Q&A 88 today, folks. Remember to like the video if you like the Q&As. It helps me more than you think. Is the adductor machine bad for your back? No, the adductor machine doesn't even load your back, man. How would it hurt your back? It's not even involved in the movement. A lot of you have to understand that there's a lot of fear-mongering online about bad movements because it gets a lot of clicks. Like if you write the best exercise to do XYZ, gets a lot of clicks. If you write the worst exercises to never do, gets a lot of clicks. But there are people all over the world doing the so-called most dangerous exercises, Jefferson curls, upright rows, guillotine press, and they're getting stronger and bigger and no pain. Have you ever dealt with a groin sprain? I have one right now. Would not recommend. I've never sprained my groin from lifting weights. No, I don't really know how you do that, but I've definitely done that back in the days when I was younger and I used to play pickup basketball and pickup football. And that is a nasty injury. And what happens is like it starts to feel a little better, so you try to use it and then you just re-injure it. Definitely annoying injury. Let it heal all the way. Dude, did you shave your hair and your face? No. What would give you that idea? I mean, I really have no idea where that's coming from. Maybe you watched a deep fake video or something? No, man. I mean, your eyes are deceiving you, clearly. Weird. Is bracing on a belt squat just a waste of time? Honestly, using like a strict powerlifting style brace for most movements where you're doing hypertrophy reps is a little bit of a waste of your time. Because what's going to happen is that unless you're doing like a 5, 6, 7 rep set at the most, you're just going to get out of breath. So the bracing strategy is absolutely going to change depending on the tempo, the exact movement that you're doing, and how many reps that you're doing. And a powerlifting style brace is generally not appropriate for most of it. How can I tell if pausing something in the lengthened is a good idea for me? Well, did you just try it? I mean, if it improves your SFR, then it's a good idea. Generally, I will pause something if pausing it allows me to get deeper into the stretch, or if not pausing exposes me to loads that hurts my joints, or if not pausing sometimes predisposes me to get injured on that movement. Like for me, on pressing movements, I will do a brief pause just to break up the amortization phase. But really, you should just try it and see if it gives you a better SFR. And if you can't tell, I mean, just stick to beginner stuff because that's what you are. Are there really hyper responders to PEDs? So people love to use like Nick Walker in this example, but they use a prep where he over dieted when he was like 18, and then they show a picture 10 years later after he's been on gear for 10 years. So yes, all response to a stimuli in human beings is going to exist on some sort of a spectrum. Some people will respond more than others, but hyperresponder is kind of a buzzword in fitness. How is pain post-operation? Is it manageable? So I refuse any sort of like pharmacy grade painkillers. I was told that I'm allowed to take anti-inflammatories, but I really only took anti-inflammatories for the first night after the surgery to help fall asleep. I don't really have any pain. So yeah, it's very manageable for me, but my pain tolerance is high. Do you think rail-style RDLs and drift SLDLs actually do anything better than one another? So when you let the bar drift out in front of your shins, it's going to increase the moment arm at the hips and at the lats. But once you get out of that part of the range of motion where the bar has drifted and it comes back in higher in the range of motion, you've now got much less absolute load on the bar. So the top half or even top 2/3 of the range of motion are going to be much easier. So if you're focusing on that bottom part in the stretch position, it can potentially give you a better SFR if you're quite strong. If I train a lift and become more efficient at it, are my muscles contracting harder, or is there another reason why I'm able to lift more weight? There is actually a whole host of adaptations that are happening beyond just muscles contracting harder. You have improvements in intramuscular coordination, improvements in rate coding, and probably the most important one to my knowledge on a physiological level is simply higher overall recruitment rates, period, in terms of motor units, in terms of total muscle fibers used to contribute to the movement. So the recruitment rates is usually the biggest thing with neuromuscular efficiency. Why don't you ever use an upper-lower split for hypertrophy? I would say more than half of my clients are on an upper-lower split for hypertrophy. So I use it all the time. As for why I've never used it personally, because it's never been the best fit for my training advancement and my needs. The best fit for my training advancement and needs is full body. Push-pull leg splits just allow me to fit in more isolations and have shorter overall workouts, which is something I want right now. Loving the cue ball look. Love the bald look. Honestly, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I have long, glorious locks like always. What makes Guts such a compelling character? Well, one, he's authentic and holds true to his own beliefs and values pretty much no matter what. And while I know some people are going to argue that's what Griffith did too, the reality is that human beings are social creatures and we value our closest social bonds above all else. Somebody who would sacrifice their best friends and family to get a goal is despicable, whereas somebody who would kill someone that killed their best friends and family is relatable. Are there any advanced basketball statistics that you personally think just don't really stack up? So I don't really think any of them stack up in the way that people want them to. People want advanced basketball statistics to be prescriptive, meaning like you can go look up some number for offensive rating and be like, that's the best offensive player in the league. When in reality, their role, the coaching, their teammates, the people that they played against, the strategies that they played against is all going to come together to describe the number that gets produced from that statistic. I think there's an unwillingness on both sides of the debate as far as admitting the strengths and weaknesses of advanced stats, because they can certainly tell us something and they are a piece of evidence, but people either want the evidence to be worthless or they want the evidence to be the final word, and that's never going to be the case because every single advanced statistic has flaws. If you use nothing but advanced stats, it's really not even that hard to make a case that in Kobe Bryant's entire career, he was never a top 5 player in the league for any given season. In fact, you might even be able to argue he wasn't even top 8 outside of like 2 seasons. In reality, if you were starting a team in Kobe Bryant's prime, can you really find 10 players that you would rather have on your team than Kobe Bryant? Is Kobe Bryant really not even deserving of being in the top 15? Because according to advanced stats, he's not even close. Advanced statistics just don't capture the whole picture. Should I get a manual labor job that pays more or a job with low activity that pays less so I can focus on the gains? Man, if you are giving up money for gains, you are about as stupid as they come unless you're going to go all in on becoming a fitness professional someday. There is nothing that I can think of that's more nonsensical than giving up money to make slightly better fitness progress, because that money could easily be spent on like better food, better sleeping conditions, having less stress in your life. Definitely choose the money, man. Choose the money for sure. For beginners, would you basically just recommend Jordan Peters' full body routine? No, absolutely not. I don't like the way that Jordan Peters has the full body routine set up for novices. And the way he has it set up is not for novices. Like you use 4 different exercise rotations and you have like 13 exercises per session, including tons of unnecessary isolation work. For true beginners, I keep things way simpler. I use as little variations as possible and the isolations don't need to be there. When should the stiff-legged deadlift be done off blocks, and is it cheating? Let's start with the cheating thing first because that's idiotic. You can't cheat anything in lifting when you're not competing against somebody else. Cheating is something that you can do when you are in a contest against someone else or in a setting where you are being tested and you're breaking rules. Okay, there's no rules for hypertrophy training, really. I mean, sure, you could be using a technique that isn't optimal. You could be using a technique that doesn't have the best SFR, but that's not cheating. Okay, this isn't powerlifting, right? You're not like using a machine to help you lift the weight, which would be cheating, or hiding an assistive suit under your clothes, which would be cheating. So you can do a stiff-legged deadlift off of blocks anytime that you don't have the mobility to keep your back flat all the way to the floor. The blocks should be high enough to get rid of that mobility limitation and go through a range of motion where you can keep your back flat the entire time. But there's no such thing as, like, even if you are literally like doing cheat curls, it's not cheating, it's a technique. If you only had 1 day left to live, what would be your last meal? I think if I only had 1 day left to live, I wouldn't care about food. I'd be spending that with people that I love and talking to the people that I love. So whatever they were eating, if I was eating with them, but I wouldn't be like having my favorite meal. Is the Vegas nightlife as lit as it seems on social media? I mean, the slowest night in Vegas on a random weekday is going to be crazier than the best night of the year in whatever city that you're from, unless it's like a very small handful of cities named LA, New York, or cities of similar stature. So yes, it really is that crazy. You have to keep in mind that Vegas is like adult Disneyland. You have people coming from all over the world that are maybe not ever going to go there again, or possibly not go there for like another 5 years, and they go absolutely insane. It's not the same people ever. It's not like the same group coming in there and just doing another Wednesday at Joe's. It's like people on vacation who are there for the express purpose of partying as hard as they can. So that is what it ends up being like. Can I get all the same hypertrophy doing hack squats and RDLs instead of free squats? I mean, no, because it's going to hypertrophy different muscle fibers in different ways. And personally, I think that free squats are a better adductor exercise, particularly if you're not being very, very anal about your hips moving back a little bit. So yeah, you can definitely replace any exercise with a group of other exercises, right? If you said hack squat, RDL, and the seated adductor machine, then I would probably be forced to say yes. But for beginners, we have to keep in mind, is this really what we want? Do we need the exercise with the best quad SFR, or do we need the exercise that's going to promote the most overall lower body growth? And there's a time and a place for both. What's the difference between toes up and toes down in a leg curl? Well, you have to keep in mind that active insufficiency is going to occur anytime that a muscle is shortening at both joints that it attaches to. And the calves can contribute to the first 15 degrees or so of a lying leg curl, so you don't want to start with them overly short. All right, folks, that's it for today's Q&A. I will actually be back tomorrow because I'm doing legs. I sort of already regret switching off of full body just because I know it's the best split for my arms and delts, and that's what I need to bring up the most. But whatever, tomorrow is legs, and then if I want to get back on full body, I will, but I'll probably stick to this for at least a couple weeks. Anyway, what do we say here with the ads? Oh, the ads, okay. Yes, if you like the Q&As, please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. It's $1 a month. If you would like to work with me directly, just shoot me a DM on Instagram, or you can find my email in the description box on YouTube. As for my ebooks, those are in my bio on Instagram and in the description box on YouTube. So, again, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another Q&A with leg day footage attached.